All of us knows that healthy lifestyle is important. And next speaker not only knows that, but also implements it to his real life. Having 3 children doesn't keep him away from gym, so no excuses for all of us, sorry. He has many successes at marathons, triathlons, and Ironman competitions. So please welcome our own Tony Stark and the best dancer at Polish office, Konrad Kunicki.
Welcome everyone. I hope you enjoy our conference so far. I hope you had a great meal. Now let's start to talk some about bots. So it's quite hot topic recently. There is a lot of hype in the web around bots. So I think it's quite good to know some more stuff about that. For those who are already familiar with the concept, I will try to systematize your knowledge about this topic. Before we start talking about bots, I think it would be good to put our in some context of current trends in the industry. But before we start, maybe could you say how many new applications have you installed on your phone in the last month?
Two.
Yeah. Okay, so as you see, nowadays we install less and less applications. I think at the beginning, when the whole App Store started, we had so many these different applications and we wanted to try a lot of them. We installed much more frequently a new application. Right now, it's really difficult to convince people to install a new application, and even if we install an application, still usually after 1 usage or 2 usage we just throw it away. So that's the current situation. At the same time, we can notice a big rise of the messaging platforms. So in 2015, for the first time, users spent much more time on messaging platform comparing to social networks. So previously, we much more time spent just on Facebook and other social networks. Now we spend more time on different type of messaging applications like Messenger, WhatsApp, etc. And that's where we would like to communicate with other people. Also, nowadays it's a really noticeable growth of artificial intelligence and natural language processing. So we've got a lot of these fancy technologies like Siri, Cortana. At the same time, we have these all different kind of technologies which helps us recognize images, voice, etc. Also, at the beginning of this year, we had, I think, major breakthrough in artificial intelligence. So for the first time, the computer system was able to beat top human player in Go game. I don't know how many of you is familiar with Go game. Yeah, good for you. The rest who doesn't know this, I really recommend this game. So it comes from China. It already has like, I think, almost 3,000 years. So it's one of the oldest games. The rules are really simple, but at the same time, is much more subtle, and there is much more depth in Go comparing to chess. So I think it was 1997. There was a lot of information and fuss about beating the top chess player, Garry Kasparov, by DeepMind, which was developed by IBM. But in fact, it wasn't any breakthrough because it was only competition based on the how quickly you can process all different possible combinations. So it was like winning with Garry Kasparov, it was by brute force. And with Go, there is much more possible combination of the places. So it is not possible to just try to calculate or give rules to the artificial intelligence, and based on these rules to decide what should be the next move, because there are just simply too many possible ways. So it was the system created by Google, it was called AlphaGo, was created based on different layers of neural networks, and then the system was, by modifying, also was analyzing a lot of different historical games played by human players, but then later on it was still learning just by playing with itself. And so people were thinking that it will be possible like in 5-10 years, but it happened this year. So, and in fact, in this case, these neural networks could be taught all different kind of things. Yes, so it's not only when it's the computer win with chess. It was just this game and that's it, and nothing happened. Here, this system could be used for learning all different kind of things, like investing on financial markets or looking for some different kind of information. So that's, of course, there is still a lot to do in this area, but the changes are happening before our eyes nowadays. Yeah, we can observe that the world is changing. Also, the bots are perceived as a huge opportunity by all big players. So this year we could see that on different conferences held by Microsoft, Facebook, and they introduce us different kind of bot toolkit frameworks, or also they introduce different kind of cognitive services where you can just send some images to recognize or for natural language processing and things like that. So we have Microsoft, Amazon already for a few years is developing Alexa, which is also kind of a voice assistant, but they also provide kind of a framework where and they encourage the developers to build like new skills for the Alexa. So this is something similar to bots, and we can use it. We can create bots which will just will be available by this voice recognition tool. Google announced also like Google Assistant, which also it will work in the similar way as Siri or this Alexa, but Google of course has access to much more different information, so it could be also the next step in the bots. Okay, so that's just to give you some background where we are. So let's try to define what actually bot is. So that's my definition, that bot is a service powered by rules and sometimes artificial intelligence that you interact via a chat interface. It allows to access information or perform tasks without switching context and loading a dedicated application. I highlighted this part without switching context because that is perceived as a biggest strength or advantage of bots, that we can perform all different kind of tasks without switching context, because we already spend so much time in our messaging platforms. We can, being there already and just using natural language or some comments, perform the task without going outside the place where we already are. Also, there are a lot of bots which just can stay there and can listen your conversation and just having the context then can propose you some additional information or services or things like that. Is it a new concept? So actually bots, I think the first one was around 50 years ago. It was called ELISA. But the whole idea is even older. So in 1950, Turing came up with an idea how to check whether machine can think. It is called Turing test. So just simply by human would talk with from the one side from the real person, from the second with the machine, and then depending whether he can differentiate which one is who, then the test pass or fail. So already the idea is with us for a couple of decades or more. Okay, so what do bots do? So there is a lot of possible usages of bots. They can provide all different kind of information, news, what's the weather. Yeah? At the same time, there is a separate branch of bots which just are for service support for different companies. So you can order pizza, order a taxi, buy shoes, and things like that. Yeah. So we already have a lot of bots which are doing this. There is a separate branch of bots which is just for work-related tasks. There could be some bots which just will handle scheduling meeting for us just based on the context from the conversation, from the emails. There is some bots which just could be used for in company that employee could send their request to their manager. The bots, they could do it for bots. The manager can just receive the notification and from this messaging application they can approve or reject such requests. And there is also separate branch of bots which are kind of a friend to who we can talk to. So there was already the idea in the pop culture is already existing for some time. I remember 2 movies which were released in the last year, so Ex Machina and Her. So in those movies there were this concept that the main character fell in love with Samantha, which was like counterpart of Siri, and we can laugh from this, yeah, but in fact it's not science fiction anymore. So in China, Microsoft released a bot. It's called Xiao Eyes, and it has like I think 30 or something like this millions of users, and there are already like I think 2 million of people who told this voice assistant that they love them. Yeah, so it's a sad reality in fact, yeah, because it just shows that how lonely people can be. But yeah, that's where we live. Yeah. Okay, so that was a kind of introduction. Let's now to go to the more technical part when I will try to present you how to create a forest bot. So for that's the set of different technologies and platforms I will use. So I chose the Slack as a messaging platform. I don't know how many of you is familiar with this, but it is quite a popular messaging and collaboration platform. So it's someone call it as messaging platform on steroids. So it's really easy to use, and it has a lot of pre-built integrations. And that's where we try to create our bot, the platform. The bot will try to retrieve or change something in the Jira. Jira is the platform for managing and creating, tracking tasks for our project. It also supports all different kind of agile methodologies. Our bot service itself will be hosted in Heroku. Heroku is cloud platform as a service. It's really easy to use in terms that we can really quickly move from code to the real web URL from which we can use. It's really scalable and supports all different kind of technologies and the languages. I decided to use Node.js as a server for our bot service, but in fact it could be any language you would like to use. So it could be .NET, Java, PHP, so it's irrelevant. I just selected JavaScript because nowadays I think it's quite popular, and at the same time everyone of you should understand the language concept. And also in Node.js there is available library botkit. So this is really cool library which just takes from our shoulders the need of whole communication and API with our messaging platform. So it just gives us some level of abstraction when we write a bot, whether it's for Slack or for Messenger. We still have the same API for our bots. I chose Slack also because they have 3 different levels of kind of bot-like integrations. So I think it's just starting slowly in 3 steps. I will present the concepts for bots. So the simplest thing we can use in Slack are incoming webhooks. So it just gives us possibility in Slack to set up kind of a URL to which we can post our messages from external systems. So we can just simply react on some events in our external system, and then on this event react and send the message to our chat message. In our case, it will work that in Jira we'll just react on the event of changing the state of our issue. From Jira we'll send post to our bot service which lives in Heroku, and from Heroku we'll just send a post message to Slack which will appear to our team. So let's look how it works. It should work in a second. Yeah. Oh no. I have to do it without touching. Okay, so here we have some kind of a Jira ticket. No, come on. Which is just some story with to-do status. we can change the status to we can change the status to in progress. One with let's wait. Let's see what's happening. No. It's frustrating.
Maybe you can put the laptop on the floor and use.
Yeah.
You can try changing the resolution. It might work.
No. It's coming problem.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Funny part is that it was working at your presentation, and when you switched,
Yeah, it was just, when I started touching the computer. It's unfortunately it's something with. Okay. Okay, let's keep our finger. No, good that you keep them, but that's always the demo problems. Although usually it's different kind of problem. But
can you switch back maybe to the
Yeah,
presentation mode, when the same mode when you were in the presentation? Maybe.
Okay. Okay. Hopefully it will work. We'll see. We received the notification that the status of this issue changed from status to do to in progress state. So let's see at code, or maybe even before we get the code, how we can configure it. So in Slack we have this different kind of custom integration. So it was our incoming webhook. So here, in this webhook configuration, we see when we created Slack generate for us URL, which we can use to send our post messages. We can also define different kind of default settings for the message, to which channel this message should be sent, what is the name of our bot, or we can customize the icon. So when we send this post message, still it is possible to override all these different kind of settings, but we can set up different kind of these webhooks with the default settings for this stuff. So when we send the message, we can just focus on message we sent, not on all the other details. In Jira, there is also the concept of webhook, although this webhook in Slack is rather income webhook, and here is outbound webhook. So here, when the issue change, we just send the post to URL we selected. So it's not the URL generated by Jira, but just this is where our application lives. In Heroku, we just send a post to webhook with all details when the Jira issue changes their status. Here, this Node.js is just simply a simple web server. I'm using Express library. It's in Node.js, I think it's the most popular one for web servers. And we simply listen for all different kind of requests which will be sent to our webhook URL. And that's our handler. In the handler, we just it's a function with request and response parameters. We can retrieve the body from our request. Here we are checking whether in the body we have Jira send us the change log with all changes. We can see if the change was in status field. That's when we would like to send our post message to Slack. So we simply send the post request to our Slack webhook, which in my case is just the configuration variable, and that's the JSON we send. So for that, I've got Slack formatter. We just simply create.
Can you zoom out a little bit, because we cannot see.
Can you see it, or should I make it?
Zoom out.
So make it smaller.
Control and scroll. Oh, yes, that's good.
Okay, so this is just kind of a JSON. So Slack just provides us a format for this kind of JSON. So we can just send the simple message, or using the attachment object, we can define some pretext, the color, and different fields. Also in Slack, we could introduce some buttons and things like that. Here, just to make it simply, I have fields like previous state and the new state. And basically, that's it. The second way to create bot-like integration in Slack are slash comments. So it's not natural language, it just we can create in Slack a different set of comments, and then our interaction with our bot is from Slack. So in the previous example, something happened in our external system and it went to our bot. This way, from the bot, we can start our interaction by just setting the comment. Once we configure this kind of comment, we just simply, when we type this, we send the post message to our server, which lives in Heroku. Also, together with this post message, Slack sent us the verification token, which just gives us a way to verify whether this request is coming from Slack. Yeah, because also it could, anyone could send this request to our server. So Slack sent us this token for us to be able to verify that it's coming from our slash comment within Slack. So here everything starts with Slack. So when we have defined the comment like issue, we can provide the key of this issue. We send this as a post to Heroku. Heroku using REST API of Jira retrieve the details of this issue, send back to Heroku, Heroku send back this to Slack. Once again.
I think it needs the previous mode.
I will try this. It's somehow switching between this PowerPoint and okay, hopefully it will work now. So, similar to this custom integration like webhooks, in Slack we have also these slash comments. So here we can simply have to define our command. In this case is issue. We have to define our URL to which the post message will be sent. We can define whether it will be sent as a post or get. Here Slack generates for us the token for the verification. We can also customize the name of the icon of our boss. So in the code is still the same service. Here it just have the handler for the our command URL. So if we go to our command handler, first we check whether the token is valid. So just simply in our body Slack sends us token which we can compare with our configuration variable which is holding the same token the Slack generate. I'm checking whether this is valid issue command, so checking whether there is at least one parameter, and in this case I'm expecting only one parameter. Then Jira service provider using REST API try to find the issue with this specific key. It returns to us the promise, and if it's 404 it means that the issue wasn't found. Otherwise we just send back to Slack the issue details. So in this Jira service provider, it is just simple. I'm using request library, so it's just here we can see the simple REST API with method to get. Here, just for simplicity, I use open authentication. Probably in the production where we could use OAuth authorization, but just to show this, I think this open authentication is simple. And simply here we also parse the response from the Jira and returning the object with key summary status, assignee, and our URL to the ticket. And then our Slack formatter also is returning this message with text with the issue which was found, and also with fields for status and assignee person to this agent. Okay, maybe
Don't change it.
So incoming webhook was interaction from external service to Slack. Slash comments is from interaction from Slack to some external service, and our final concept of integrating with Slack is bot users. So it just simply gives us possibility to enable bidirectional communication between our bot Slack and, for example, service like Jira. Slack provides us real-time messaging API. It's API based on WebSockets, and we just simply from our bot service, when it starts, we initiate communication with Slack. We establish our WebSocket with Slack using this RTM API, and then in the Slack, when we send any message to our bot, it is sent to Heroku. Then our bot service can react on different kind of messages depending how we implement it. So in this case, within the Slack, we just check what is the status of some issue. It goes to Heroku, it recognizes this pattern, it goes to Jira using REST API and returning to us the status of this Jira ticket. Also, the second scenario, which would be more complex, is when we have like the whole conversation between our Slack and bot. So the second scenario will be like creating issue. So we can just initiating this conversation within Slack. Then our bot will ask a different kind of question to which we can respond to Slack, and at the end, the service in Heroku will just using REST API will create an issue for us in Jira. So we had incoming webhook / comment, and now we've got our bot configuration. In the bot, that's the token we use when we initiate our WebSockets communication. We can also set up the name for our bot, select an icon, and here we can see some preview message. So, for example, here from our general channel, we can just start talking to our bot, putting its name in our comment. So let's we ask what is the status of one ticket, and here we just receive the response and the status is done. We can also go directly to the message with our bot, and then we don't have to explicitly put its name, because all the message sent here will be sent to this bot. So let's say we can create issue. We initiate the conversation, like what type of issues like to create. I would like to create a story. Okay, what is the issue summary? Let's say it's test story. Great, the issue was created, and it already gives us a link, so we can go to this link and put some more details to the issue, yeah, or things like this. The code for this, thanks to this botkit library, is really simple. So we just simply create our Slack bot. We could also create like a Facebook Messenger bot. Then using the token, we can start our WebSocket communication. And here we've got the comments here, where we can put a pattern of the message on which we could react. So the first one was, what is the status of something? Here we can define like whether it's a direct mention, or it could listen to all different kind of messages sent, and that's our handler to get issue status. So it's just simply also Jira service provided find issue and send the message back. The more interesting is create issue handler. So here we start conversation with our bot. We ask what's the type of the issue. Once we have it, we store the issue type. We ask what's the issue summary. Once we have the issue summary, we just using Jira service provide, using REST API, create an issue, and in a promising then we just send the message with the link to our Jira issue. So that's in the short way how it works in Slack. In fact, it works very similar way on all different kind of platforms. Here it's like a kind of generic bot architecture. So we have messaging platform. So in our case, it was Slack. It just communicate with bot service. Bot service next step could just what here could send to some natural language processor, which I omitted in this presentation because it would take too much time. Based on this natural language processing, we can have the outcome, what we should do next, and then bot service send some request to handler. Handler talks with service provider. In our case, it was a Jira system. From response from Jira, we send to formatter, which just format the message in the right way to Slack, send it back to handler, to bot service, and to messaging platform. So that's it. Do you have any questions? Yeah?
Is that botkit SDK only for Node.js, or can I use it with other languages?
So right now it's just for library for Node.js. But for example, Microsoft gives us also bot framework, so then you can use it in C#. So there are like different kind of libraries for different languages. Yeah, so. Any other questions?
Slack does not work on premises, so in many companies you have to network administrators won't allow you to create public endpoints to services like Jira, for example. So do you have any alternative for some service, for some service like Slack that would support bots as well?
So
I can
there are
answer.
different kind of messaging plan which support the bots, yeah. But still, this external system must be able to talk with our bots.
No, but I mean that you could, for example, install the service on internet network. In some companies you can.
Yeah, I understand, but like I said, so it's not. It's still from the messaging platform. You somehow must be able to send the message to your bot service. So it can't live just in internal network without any proxy in the middle, yeah. Because it's possible just from your internal network send some messages to Slack. So for example, this bot, I think it would work because it's using WebSocket and you initiate from your network. So for example, in my situation, the bot I was just running from my local host. But for example, this incoming webhook, there would be a problem because it must, or not with incoming webhook, but the slash comments, yeah, because the interaction is started from messaging platform, and it must have some endpoint to which they will send the post with this comment. Yeah.
So in your example, you are using some kind of comments that were strictly pointed. So what's the state of and the name? Could this framework provide something like some kind of intelligence about knowing if the words like the thing that someone wants to
So
know?
The bot kit gives us just like regular expressions, so we can just use regular expression, but we could introduce this natural language processor, yeah. So in this case, there are some different kind of libraries for online services. So normally it would look like that you would have to come up with like 10 different ways of asking the same things, and you would just try to teach this natural language processor with different kinds of questions for the same thing, and then before going to handle, it would send to this some service which would try to understand, and then this service, based on how you learn it, you would just receive the intent and the probability of this intent. So still in the current bots, you can quite often meet the situation that you'll just receive, sorry, I didn't get, what did you mean? Or maybe you meant this or that, yeah? Or for example, so probably if the probability you receive is on a quite high level, then you just go to the handler, yeah? If you are not sure what the user meant, then you just simply can provide different option. Maybe you...
Okay, so basically it's possible, but have you heard about, for example, customer service based on such bots that work?
I've met some of them even on my regular, but it's usually like the zero first, some tire before first tire, yeah? So it's just to establish what kind of problem do you have, and then it redirects you to the real person. But who knows? Probably in a few years we'll have the this natural language processing will be on such level that it will be possible to have the solution without the human interaction. Yeah? But right now, I think it's just to establish what's the problem or answering the basic questions, and then it's redirect to the real human. Yes?
I can't answer to the question for the colleague. If you're looking for on-premise messaging platform, you can see Rocket Chat or Mattermost. Mattermost is re-implementing of Slack as open source project for premise.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, so I didn't get it. Now so.
No worries.
So HipChat is also the kind of a messaging platform which you can install on your internal network. Okay, so the last question from my side: will bots replace apps, and are they better? What are your thoughts?
bots will replace us.
So, for example, the tech support, for example, yes. So,
Yeah.
if someone has specific problem and there are specific solutions for that, I guess that could be something
So
in the future.
the opinions, I think they are divided between different. In my opinion, I think that for some usages it will replace, but for some it could just enhance the existing application. But still, for some scenarios, I will have to just still use our good applications. Okay. Thank you.